got to ask you, what is your bold prediction for the 49ers? Now, this is a two-part question. So, bold prediction for the 49ers season as a whole, and then bold prediction for a 49ers player.
Okay, so first off, I'll start. Okay, I think the team's going to make the playoffs. I think the team's going to have a nice run, and I think that Trey Lance is going to be pretty consistent. And I actually had somebody come through the chat is 49ers George 365 and said, Trey Lance puts up about 3,000 yards of total offense and 25 touchdowns. And I'm going to kind of roll with what 49ers George said, except I'm going to say he goes about 3,500 total yards on offense and then around 25 touchdowns and leads the 49ers to the playoff in the first year. And then let's see what happens with this great defense and run game. But that's my bold prediction that Trey goes for 3,525 touchdowns, which I think everyone thinks gets them to the playoffs and maybe the promised land. We'll see. As far as player, I think this is the year that Brandon Ayuk breaks out. I think Brandon Ayuk has himself one heck of a season because there's going to be so much attention paid to Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel's going to get a lot of attention, and then George Kittle. And we got a natural chemistry, going on with Brandon Ayuk and Trey Lance. So I think this year, Brandon Ayuk eclipses 1,000 yards in receiving, and he comes up with double-digit touchdowns. I'll give him 10 touchdowns, and I think he just has himself one heck of a year.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Lance, if he threw for 3,500 yards over a 17-game season, that's about 205 yards per game. So I could definitely see that happen. I would raise it. I think he would go at least 4,000 passing yards in this offense. I could definitely see that. And I like the Brandon Ayuk, progression that he's doing. He's looking pretty good in camp. He obviously has a much better rapport with Trey Lance as opposed to Jimmy G. Trey Lance will actually throw the ball down the field, and that's what Brandon Ayuk loves. So that is a great that was a nice prediction. I like that. Let's go back to the defense. Now I mentioned earlier about the 2019 roster compared to this roster. Who do you think has the better defense when you're looking from 2019 and this year? What would you say?
Yeah, I think that number one, the defensive line is better. Bosa is just farther along in his development, so he's better than he was his rookie year. That's number one. I think you are missing a D Ford presence. In 2019, D Ford was that speed rush element opposite, and Bosa was crazy. But you make up for it with tremendous depth in other areas with that Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, and now young Drake Jackson rotating, and you have Kinlaw and Armstead on the inside who are better run stoppers than Buckner, for instance. Buckner would have got them in the past, but as far as pass rush, but as far as run game, they're definitely going to be better in that area. But linebackers, I don't even think it's close because you had a young Dre Greenlaw, so he's better in that department. And then it was Quan Alexander who struggled to make tackles and struggled with angles. You don't have that with Aziz Al-Shire. He's a little bit better than Quan in those areas. And then in the secondary, it's not Richard Sherman, who I love Richard Sherman, but it's Charvarius Ward, who can definitely handle man coverage. Emmanuel Mosley's better than himself. So he's better now than he was then. And I think that's part of the upgrade situations. You have upgrades with Jimmy Ward. The only question mark you would have would be your nickel corner spot with Kaywan Williams or Darquez Denard, and with whoever it is, Tarvarius Moore or Talanoa Hufanga and Jaquiski Tart. Those are the matchups. But overall, I think this defense is just a little bit better because it's a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think 2019. We haven't seen what this defense can do so far, but on paper, I think they look a little bit better. But 2019, you had Jaquiski Tart, and granted, he's not necessarily a playmaker. He's not going to get interceptions, but he is a veteran. He can make plays on the field. He knows where everyone needs to line up at, and I think that was a pretty good tandem, Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tart. When both players are healthy, I think that was a really good tandem. You mentioned Richard Sherman. He was never a speedster, but he definitely brought an intensity and attitude that kind of reminds me of what Fred Warner's trying to do now. And I love to see that at the cornerback spot. He loved to tackle, great in zone, and he was just a heady player. He knew what was coming, before the play, was run. Like he's seen it all. And there's no doubt Richard Sherman, is a Hall of Famer. You mentioned the nickel corner spot, and we haven't really touched on that, but let's get into that now. Kaywan Williams, no doubt. I think he was really good at that spot. He was able to blitz. He was able to cover. And he really made the most out of his opportunity in the red and gold, and I wish him the best. Unfortunately, he's no longer with the Niners; he's with the Denver Broncos. But who has the edge? I know Darquez Denard this year has been taking a bulk of the first string snaps, and I hear that Samuel Womack also took some first team reps as well. So who do you think has the edge, Darqueze Dennard or Sammy Womack?
Yeah, I think right now is Darqueze Dennard. I think that they want Samuel Womack to continue to develop. I'm not saying that halfway through the year Samuel Womack won't be able to come in there and push Dennard for the spot. But Dennard looks extremely comfortable. He understands where he's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and he just does everything right. And I think that's right now. Womack is still learning, where he is right now. He's treading water sometimes, to keep his head up and just find out where he's supposed to be in zone coverages and things. When it gets to man situations, he's lightning. I mean, he can drive on the football. He's really good with his hands as far as pass breakups. So I think he's got a lot of potential and talent. The one thing to watch is I watched Darqueze Dennard get hurt today while shedding a block and injuring a finger on his left hand. It bothered him for a while. He continued to get some reps, so let's see if he's able to come back in there. Hopefully it's not a situation where it's like a torn ligament or anything where he has to have surgery and misses some time, because I think this defense would look really good with Ward, Mosley, and Darqueze Dennard as the that nickel group. I think it sounds pretty good.